Hi everybody. As promised, I'm sending you another video. I did finish grading. If you don't have a grade, it's either because you haven't sent me your paper yet, or in the case of one student, your paper I cannot open on my computer, and I sent you an email. But everyone else is done, and so I wanted to kind of give you guys some feedback for what I've seen as a whole over the course of these papers. First of all, I want to start with the discussion board posts. You guys are doing a great job. You really, truly are. I'm really enjoying reading them. You have great ideas, very interesting ideas, and I've really enjoyed seeing them kind of talked out and hashed out on the boards. One thing I will suggest, and I have written this on a lot of people's discussion board posts, is try to pay attention to utilizing your sources, so your book or articles, in the response posts. You guys do a great job of pulling from the book for your initial post when you're making your initial argument, but then often it gets kind of abandoned when you respond to other people. So try to incorporate that into your work. It'll really help. Why? Because our book is our best source of information. So we should use it when we're responding to someone else, whether we agree with them or whether we think that we have a stronger idea. So definitely include that there. But let's move on to the papers. First of all, the papers were really good. I was really happy with the different themes you guys chose. I was happy with your use of outside sources. In fact, most of you used really good outside sources. We haven't spoken about it in this class, and I will speak about it later in the week or next week, possibly. And I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but you need to use academic sources. So using blog posts does not count. Why? The blog post writer is not an expert in their field. They could be your little brother or your little sister or your uncle who can barely read but happen to have read The Hunger Games, right? When we use sources for our papers, we have to use valid sources. And I'll talk more about this later, but a lot of you did. If they come from journals, college English I saw some from, or books like the articles we've read so far, the Hunger Games articles we've read are considered valid. So definitely, I was really happy that a lot of you chose valid articles. And I look forward to kind of seeing more of what you guys choose. And again, I'll talk about this later in the week or next week, a little bit more in depth. I was also really happy with the range of scenes you guys chose to use to support your arguments. I had themes from rebellion and identity to survival. I had someone talk about the motif of clothing, which was really interesting. It was a really good thing to use in relation to a theme. And you guys chose great scenes to go with everything. Really great scenes. You didn't just choose them all from the very first couple of scenes or from the very end. You were pretty even in your choices, which is good. Choosing all from the beginning of the book or the middle of the book isn't very effective when we're trying to show how an author is expressing something. Couple of things I did want to talk about. I spoke about thesis statements yesterday, and I want to reiterate that really briefly. Make sure your thesis statements are a statement, are an argument, not just, I'm going to discuss the theme of rebellion. Okay, I won't go into that all again. If you haven't seen the video, please check your email or the announcement from yesterday and watch it. It is 11 minutes. It's a little bit long. I'll try to keep this one shorter than that, but it is really important, okay? Thesis statements are important, and a lot of you today, the papers I finished grading definitely include some comments about that. Something else I saw, which I think can be strengthened, is your incorporation of outside sources into your writing. That includes novel and essay sources, articles. Sometimes I see people just throw the quote into their paragraph and say, look, here's my quote. That's not it's very jarring for your reader to be reading what you're saying, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's someone else's words. And what makes it even harder is if you're quoting from the book, it's going to sound extraordinarily different than what you're writing. It's not going to make sense. Why? Because all of a sudden we have first person, we have some weird setting, it's fiction. It's Suzanne Collins style. The second problem with that is it's someone else's words, right? It's going to sound different even in an article. So please be careful. How do we introduce these? A good way to do it is to say something like, according to Melissa Ames in her article, Resistance and the Hunger Games, Katniss does X, Y, and Z. And maybe that part's quoted, right? You can introduce it that way, where you include kind of a little introduction, who wrote it and what they said. Okay? You can also build it into your sentence. Construct your sentence around what you're trying to point out. And a lot of you did this, where the quote is just placed into your sentence as if it's part of your own writing. That's a great way to do it. It's very clear, it's very concise. You just cite it at the end, and we don't have to stop what we're doing in our flow and kind of switch gears, which is really problematic when your reader is trying to figure out what you're doing. You do not want to have them stop in the middle of your essay because they will forget what you're saying. Okay? Those are two really good ways to do it. I did leave comments if there are problems with integration and quotes, so please check those out. If you are concerned or you don't quite know how to fix it, please let me know. Email me, set up a meeting for Skype, whatever you want to do. We can talk about it on the phone. Just if you want to try to fix it first before you send it to me, that's great too. I will look at that. Okay? But definitely look at the integration of quotes. Okay? The last little thing I want to mention, and a lot of you, I didn't see a lot of people do this, but it's something I've seen over the courses of teaching this class, I've seen students do. It happens a lot, and basically what happens is you're writing and you're talking about rebellion, and then you forget to tie it back to the thesis. If you're trying to say that the games, I had one student, it was a good paper, saying something about the games were Katniss's defiance and rebellion was to show how corrupt and unjust the games were. So she gives examples of defiance, great examples, fantastic examples of defiance. But we need to move back to the thesis, because what's her thesis? Her acts of defiance help show us that the games are corrupt. That is the argument. Okay? So you want to make sure you connect it. So at the end of the paragraph, somewhere inside of it, this very act of defiance shows us that the games do X, Y, and Z. Always bring us back to your thesis. It helps you and it helps the reader. It helps the reader follow along what's happening so we don't lose track of what you're trying to argue. And it helps you as the writer stay on track so your paper doesn't go into left field. Okay? It happens. I've done it myself as a student. My papers just end up saying I don't know what. The key is to always circle back. Okay? Those are my big comments I wanted to say with these papers. Like I said, I was overall extremely happy with these papers you guys wrote. Like I said, the biggest problem was the thesis statements, and hopefully we can work those out before our next papers. But these were good, and I look forward to reading more like it. Again, if you have not submitted your paper, please get it to me. There is a late penalty assessed, but if you get it in before the end of this week, it's only penalty A instead of adding more penalties to it. Also, discussion board posts cannot be made up. No one in the class this time has that issue, but just remember, if you miss the discussion board for the week, you miss the discussion board for the week. So please try to get those in. It is Wednesday, and I've had one person post so far, so please check those out. Respond to hers, write more, because you guys do great discussions, and I want to see it there. Okay? Have a great rest of your week. I might be a little scarce tomorrow. I'm sorry. My husband's graduating with a PhD, and I'm not going to be at my computer. However, I will check my email, so if you have a question, please email me or post in the question forum. I will get back to you tomorrow evening. If you submit your papers today or tomorrow, they'll probably be graded tomorrow night, Friday morning. I look forward to reading this, and have a great rest of your day.